Part 1: Entering the cave without a lantern. I once guided someone into a deep shadow meditation. They were ready, or so they thought. They had read the books, said the mantras, and wore the crystals. But within 15 minutes of stillness, they began to tremble. Not from cold, but from something ancient waking inside them. Something that had been waiting quietly beneath their affirmations and smiles for the right moment to emerge. That night, they didn't sleep. For days, they felt watched. And when they finally came back to speak with me, they whispered, "I think I opened something I can't close." This is not uncommon, because shadow work is not a trend. It is not a hashtag. It is a sacred and dangerous right one that can lead to liberation or to possession, depending on how we walk the path. We must understand that shadow work, when done without depth and discernment, can open spiritual doors we are not ready to walk through. It's not simply about healing trauma. It's about entering the underworld of the psyche where your repressed rage, jealousy, shame, and pain live like sleeping gods. And when you disturb them without reverence, they don't rise as wounds. They rise as entities, thought forms, attachments, manifestations of unintegrated energy. These are not metaphors. These are real presences that can latch onto your field if you mistake excavation for integration. And that brings us to the first mistake. The first mistake is romanticizing darkness. We've seen it, people proudly declaring they're doing shadow work, posting pictures of crying faces or cryptic captions about their dark goddess phase. But here's the truth. Shadow work is not aesthetic. It's not something you perform. It's something you survive. When you truly face your shadow, it doesn't empower you immediately, it empties you. It breaks your illusions. It collapses your false self. And in that vacuum, if you are not grounded in truth, something else can step in. Something cunning, something unseen, something that mimics your voice until you forget who you were before the breakdown.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
We must ask ourselves, why do I want to do shadow work? Is it to heal? Or is it to feel powerful? Is it to truly understand myself? Or is it to appear deep, to be seen, to belong? Because intention is everything on the spiritual path. Demons do not need your rituals or your blood. They only need your ego. If your shadow work is rooted in performance, the demon of spiritual ego will guide you deeper, not into healing, but into delusion. It will show you visions. It will whisper false clarity. It will convince you that because you've seen your pain, you've processed it. But witnessing is not the same as integrating. And this leads to the second mistake. The second mistake is diving in without protection. You wouldn't walk into a battlefield without armor. And yet, many people walk into their unconscious without grounding, without spiritual safeguards, without a guide. Shadow work is not just psychological, it is energetic. When you stir up suppressed emotions, you create a frequency spike. That spike is like a flare in the astral realm. And entities, those who feed on fear, pain, confusion, they notice. They gather. Not to attack you, but to merge with the parts of you that resonate with them. If you carry unacknowledged rage, you may begin to feel possessed by anger. If you carry deep shame, you may begin to hear a voice inside that reinforces your unworthiness. That voice is not yours. It is the echo of an energy that found a home in your wound. So how do we protect ourselves? Not with superstition, but with clarity, with intention, with sovereignty. Before you go into shadow work, you must anchor into your higher self. You set the space. You call in your guides. You declare, only what serves my highest truth may enter. You don't go digging into trauma on a whim, during a full moon, just because TikTok told you to. This is sacred ground, and sacred ground must be walked with clean feet, a calm heart, and a sharpened mind. Otherwise, you're not doing shadow work, you're performing spiritual surgery on yourself with no training, no tools, and no light. The third mistake is bypassing the body. So many people try to do shadow work in the head. They journal, they analyze, they intellectualize the pain. But the shadow does not live in the mind. It lives in the body. It lives in the clenched jaw, the tight chest, the frozen hips. It lives in the nervous system's memory. And when you try to heal it only with thoughts, you miss the portal. Worse, you trap the energy. You stir it up, name it, but never release it. And in that stagnant energy, something else can anchor: a spirit of depression, a weight of rage, a grief that is no longer yours. And now, instead of healing your trauma, you've become host to emotions amplified by unseen forces. Have you ever wondered why, after shadow work, you feel worse not just emotionally, but energetically? You feel drained, heavy, lost. That is not healing. That is spiritual residue. That is what happens when you open the wound but don't close the field. You must move the energy through breath, through sound, through somatic release, through sacred movement. You must tell the body, we are safe now. You can let go, because if the body doesn't believe you, it will keep holding. And what it holds, the darker realms can use. The fourth mistake is isolating yourself during the process. We live in a hyper-individualistic culture that says healing is a solo journey. But shadow work is not meant to be done in isolation. The very nature of the shadow is that it hides, it deceives. It convinces you that you're seeing clearly when you're deep in projection. And when you're alone, you have no mirror, no reflection, no one to say, that's not truth, that's trauma. And in that echo chamber of your own pain, the demon of distortion thrives. It will amplify your fears. It will twist your memories. It will make you believe that people hate you, that you are beyond redemption, that your darkness is too much. And because you have no one to challenge that voice, you believe it. Joe Hospital. You become more fragmented, and the more fragmented you are, the more vulnerable you are to influence. This is not weakness. This is human design. We heal in community because we are meant to be witnessed. And when someone who loves you looks at your shadow and doesn't flinch, something miraculous happens. The demon loses its grip. Because now, your pain has been seen without judgment. And that is the medicine it was waiting for all along. The fifth mistake is making the shadow your identity. This is perhaps the most dangerous trap. Once people begin shadow work and uncover their wounds, their traumas, their patterns, they begin to identify with them. I'm the angry one. I'm the one with abandonment issues. I'm the one who attracts narcissists. These become badges, labels, identities. And as soon as you identify with the shadow, you give it power. You stop being the observer and become the character. And demons love characters, because characters can be controlled, but souls are sovereign. You are not your wounds. You are not your patterns. You are not your shadow. You are the one who sees it. You are the luminous awareness behind it. And your job is not to become the darkness, it is to integrate it. To bring it into the light of consciousness and say, I see you. I love you, but you do not define me. That is real shadow work. That is what transforms. Anything less is spiritual cosplay. So I ask you now, where have you mistaken insight for transformation? Where have you opened doors without closing them? Where have you confused depth with danger? because the shadow is not here to harm you. It is here to reveal where you are still fragmented. But if you approach it without reverence, without support, without preparation, you don't meet the shadow. You meet what has been hiding inside it. And that's where the real war begins. Part 2. Mistaking mirrors for monsters. The illusion that traps the soul. There is a moment in every deep shadow journey where you're not just confronting wounds, you're confronting reflections. You begin to see parts of yourself you've disowned, repressed, or feared. But what happens when those parts of you look back with unfamiliar eyes? When they speak in a voice that sounds like yours, but filled with venom, chaos, and despair? That is the moment when many believe they're encountering a demon. But what if the real demon isn't the entity you see, but the belief that it is separate from you? What if the most terrifying force isn't the shadow itself, but your refusal to own it? This is the paradox. When you deny your darkness, you make it foreign. And anything foreign feels like a threat. Demonic influence doesn't always begin with possession. It begins with projection. The moment you say, "This isn't me," you create a split. And in that split, something else can grow. Something that fills the space where your ownership should have been. Because nature abhors a vacuum. And in spiritual terms, unclaimed energy becomes claimed by something. That's how the illusion begins. The illusion that your fear, your rage, your desires are monsters, when in truth, they are mirrors twisted. Yes, but still showing you are. But here's where it becomes dangerous. When you mistake a mirror for a monster, you start fighting it. You try to cast it out. You try to purify yourself of it. You use rituals, affirmations, prayers not to integrate, but to exile. And exile always invites influence, because you have now declared war on your own psyche. And demons are not drawn to darkness, they are drawn to division, to inner conflict, to the war between your ego and your essence. And they will play both sides, whispering to your light while feeding your shadow, until you're so tangled in false duality that you no longer know what is real. This is why discernment is everything. Not just spiritual discernment, but emotional discernment. Can you tell the difference between a trauma response and a spiritual attack? Can you tell when a thought is yours versus when it's been implanted through fear or programming? Because if you can't, you will spend your life fighting phantoms. And in doing so, you will never heal. Because healing requires intimacy. And you cannot get intimate with a part of yourself you are still demonizing. Let me give you an example. A man once came to me convinced he was cursed. He had been doing shadow work on his anger, and suddenly he began having violent dreams, bursts of rage and intrusive thoughts. He believed a dark spirit had attached to him, but when we worked deeper, what we discovered was this. He had never allowed himself to be angry. His entire life, he was taught that anger was evil. So he repressed it, buried it. And when he finally opened the door, 30 years of stored rage came flooding out, raw and wild. That wasn't a demon, it was him. It was his truth, distorted by decades of silence. But because he believed it was evil, he treated it like an intruder. He tried to banish it, and in doing so, he created the very conditions for an entity to attach. Because now there was ungrounded emotional energy, fear, resistance, and a wide-open spiritual field. That's the formula for possession. Not devil worship, not black magic, just ignorance and fear. That's all it takes. That's why shadow work must be done with reverence, patience, and support. Because the deeper you go, the more you are asked to hold complexity. And the moment you reduce that complexity into good versus evil, you fall into illusion. Ask yourself right now, what part of me have I labeled as bad? What emotion do I fear expressing? What truth about myself do I still hide from? Because that's where the door is. That's where the influence begins. Not in the darkness itself, but in your refusal to see what lies there. Demonic energy is not attracted to your pain, it's attracted to your shame about your pain. It feeds not on your wounds, but on your resistance to them. That's the secret. That's the trap. And that brings us to another subtle but deadly mistake, confusing intensity with truth. In shadow work, there will be moments of overwhelming emotion. You will feel grief, rage, terror, loneliness, sometimes so strong you'll think you're losing your mind. And in those moments, you may believe that whatever you're feeling must be true. I am worthless. I am unlovable. I am doomed. But intensity does not equal truth. It equals release. It is the nervous system discharging decades of emotional pressure. But if you aren't taught how to witness it, you will believe it. You will make it your identity. And once again, the demon enters not through emotion, but through identification with emotion. The most dangerous possession is not when a spirit enters your body. It's when a belief enters your mind. A belief that you are your shadow, that you are broken, that you are beyond healing. That is the real curse. And it is far more common than we realize. Because if you look around, you will see people living out their shadows every day, acting from their trauma, projecting their pain, repeating karmic patterns. Not because they're evil, but because they've never been taught how to integrate. And so we must return to the body. We must return to breathe. We must remember that shadow work is not a place to stay. It is a place to pass through. You do not live in the underworld, you visit it. You retrieve the gold and return. But if you linger too long, if you start decorating your trauma, building a home in your pain, you are no longer healing. You are worshiping the wound. And demons love altars of pain. They will come and kneel beside you. They will offer you insights, dreams, even mystical experiences if it means you stay stuck. Because their goal is not to destroy you, it's to delay you, to keep you circling the same emotional loops, believing you are deep when really you are just lost. So how do we avoid this? By making integration the goal, not insight. By asking after every shadow journey, what am I going to do with this? How will I embody what I've seen? What does this part of me need to feel safe, to feel heard, to come home? These questions are not glamorous. They won't make for viral posts, but they will save your soul because they bring you back to the human. And demons cannot live in your humanity. They live in your dissociation, your abstraction, your disembodiment. Remember this. The shadow is not the enemy. The enemy is the voice that tells you to fear the shadow, to fight it, to exile it. That voice is not your intuition. It is the echo of every unhealed ancestor, every suppressed emotion, every false teacher who told you that wholeness meant purity. It does not. Wholeness means inclusion. Wholeness means you look at your anger, your lust, your envy, your grief, and you say, you belong. Let's talk. Let's breathe. Let's heal. So now I ask you the deepest question so far. What part of you have you tried to cast out in the name of healing? What shadow have you turned into a demon simply because you were afraid to love it? Because the moment you answer that question with honesty, you begin the real work. And the real work is not glamorous. It's not aesthetic. It's not performance. It's rescue. Of the self you left behind in the dark. Part 3, the possession of potential. How false empowerment becomes a trap. There is a subtle moment in shadow work that most people miss. It happens when you start to feel powerful again. Not healed powerful. You speak with more conviction. You walk with more intensity. You begin to feel like you've unlocked something. And in many ways you have. You've touched a deeper energy, one that was buried beneath fear and shame. But here lies the trap. If you mistake this raw energy for healing, you may actually be standing at the threshold of possession. Because not all power is purified, and not every surge of energy is your soul. Sometimes it's the shadow finally being worshipped. This is the sixth unspoken mistake confusing activation with integration. Just because a part of you has been awakened doesn't mean it has been healed. It may just be louder, more seductive, more dominant. And if you start to identify with that force, if you start feeding it with belief, attention, and action, it grows. But it grows without consciousness. And that's when things get dangerous. Because now, your shadow isn't just acting out, it's leading. And the demon doesn't need to possess you. It only needs to ride that wave. To use your wounded power as a puppet. To whisper, yes, this is who you really are. And once you believe that voice, it has you. One of the most common manifestations of this is spiritual ego. You begin to believe that because you have faced the darkness, you are somehow above others. You confuse awareness with awakening. You think that insight equals authority, and slowly your humility dies. Your softness fades. Your compassion turns cold. You begin to correct others, judge their journeys, measure their worth against your wounds. And that's when the demon of false light enters. It doesn't come through rage or shame, it comes through arrogance, through the illusion that you've arrived, that you've transcended, that you no longer need to question yourself. But the truly awakened are not those who appear untouchable. They are the ones who remain reachable, who can still cry, still apologize, still say, I don't know. Because true power is not dominance, it is presence. And demons cannot mimic presence. They can mimic certainty. They can mimic charisma, even mystical experiences. But they cannot sit in stillness without agenda. They cannot hold space for others without feeding. And they cannot love without condition. That's how you know the difference. Ask yourself, has your shadow work made you softer or sharper? Has it opened your heart or armored it? Because if you've come out of shadow work more guarded, more defensive, more righteous, then you may have fed the shadow instead of freeing it. You may have built an altar to your pain instead of a bridge to your soul. And you may be confusing the demon's voice with your own. This is where humility becomes your sword. Not false humility, the kind that pretends to be small, but real humility, the kind that says, I am still learning. I am still integrating. I am still human. That kind of humility is a shield. It protects you from possession because it keeps you open. Not porous, not vulnerable to anything, but open to truth. And truth is what dissolves illusion. Demons can only survive in distortion, in half-truths, in selective memory. But when you bring truth into every corner of the shadow, the demon has nothing left to twist. Let me tell you something most people won't. Some spirits don't want to leave. They don't need to torment you to feed. They just need to be welcomed through your unresolved emotions. And once they're there, they blend in. They become part of your inner dialogue. They sound like your ambition, your discipline, your intuition. But they're not. They're just clever. And you won't know the difference until you stop getting what you want and start asking what you need. Because the demon will always give you what you want: attention, power, control, emotional high. But your soul gives you what you need: clarity, surrender, peace. And the two feel very different. So how do you tell the difference? Pay attention to the aftermath. After your shadow work practice, do you feel lighter or heavier? Do you feel grounded or manic? Do you want to connect with others or isolate? Because demons don't just influence in the moment, they linger. They leave residue. If after deep work you feel disconnected from your body, your joy, your love, that's not healing, that's extraction. Something took from you, and you need to ask, what did I just open, and what came through? This is why spiritual hygiene is non-negotiable. You don't just open and close your sessions. You cleanse, you recalibrate, you ask for help. You speak to your guides, your ancestors, your higher self. You declare your space sovereign. You don't leave emotional portals half closed. You don't go to sleep with your subconscious raw and bleeding. You seal the field. You anchor. You return to the breath, the body, the now. Because the now is the only place where demons cannot follow. They live in the past you haven't healed and the future you fear. But the now is pure. The now is presence, and presence is holy ground. So I ask you again, more radically this time, what have you mistaken for power that is actually possession? What part of your awakening might be a mask for deeper avoidance? Because the final mistake of shadow work is believing that once you've done it, you're done. You're never done. You're always unfolding, always revealing, always becoming. And the moment you stop tending to your inner world, the weeds return. Some of those weeds carry voices. Some carry memories. Some carry energies that are not yours. But if you keep tending with love, with truth, with devotion, they cannot take root. This is the work, not to become perfect, not to become pure, but to become whole, to make room for every part of you so that nothing has to hide. Because what hides invites influence, but what is seen, held, and loved becomes integrated. And what is integrated cannot be possessed. So as we close this journey, remember this: shadow work is not about becoming darker. It's about becoming deeper, more honest, more embodied. It's about learning to sit with your demons long enough to hear the wounds behind their screams. And once you hear them, once you truly see them, you realize they were never trying to destroy you. They were trying to get your attention. You are not your darkness. You are the one who walks into it with a lantern. The one who says, I will not run. I will not numb. I will not fear myself anymore. And in that moment, the demon bows because it knows it is lost. You have remembered who you are. And that is the final exorcism.